The Rams have to pay these players on their roster. Who will they pay? Who will they let walk? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, Ramley, and welcome to another episode of Locked On Rams, your daily podcast covering your Los Angeles Rams, free and available wherever you get your podcasts. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. We're also available over on YouTube, so if you haven't yet, do us a huge favor, hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, drop a like. My name is Doug McCann. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. I've covered LA sports for over a decade, 24/7 sports, Bleach Report, Dodgers Nation. And as always, I'm joined by the Rams pre-half and post-game show host for the Rams flagship radio station, ESPN 710 LA. He's going to be entering his 12th season covering your Los Angeles Rams, the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers. You can follow him on X at Travis Rogers. And on today's episode, how much could Puka get? A player that's going to get a lot of money that people aren't really talking about his contract. Also, we had Travis's thoughts on the new rumored logo update. You know, we like to talk about that kind of stuff. But we're going to start today with a player that has a cult following, a player that gets a lot of buzz, and that's Stetson Bennett and the backup quarterback situation, because we are building a Super Bowl team this offseason, Travis, and you always have to talk about the backup quarterback position, especially when you got a quarterback that it's a lot closer to 40 than he is to 30. And it was, I think, a good year for Stetson Bennett in the sense that we didn't really talk about the negatives. He kind of just did his job, but Jimmy Garoppolo was the guy. And the question is, do they give Stetson Bennett a fourth year? Do they draft a quarterback? And if they draft a quarterback, that'll tell you everything that you need to know about how they feel about Stetson Bennett. So it'll be really interesting to see what his future with the organization is.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think that it's the Rams usually kind of telegraph what it is they think about somebody and whether or not they're a part of their future plans just by how often they keep them around or not. But I think Bennett is a little harder to figure. That clearly they could have moved on from him a variety of different times, and yet they didn't do it, right? That he's still here, that he's kind of, and I don't mean this is going to sound like I'm making a joke, and I'm really not. He's kind of their preseason quarterback. Like, he's the guy that's going to play in those games. Somebody's got to do it, and they're not going to put Stafford or Jimmy Garoppolo out there. So he kind of has a role in that regard. I know that you do need that third quarterback just in case, but I also don't know if I've seen anything from Stetson Bennett that leads me to believe that the Rams are building their future around him, that they're getting ready to turn him loose at some point as their quarterback of the future. You know, we talked about Jackson Dart last year. I know we're going to talk about Ty Simpson this year and all these quarterbacks that may or may not be, connected to the Rams in one way or the other. But I keep coming back to, he's still here. There's clearly something that Stetson Bennett brings that they like, that something that, they think that they can work with. Because if there wasn't, I think he'd be long gone. I think when, what happened a few years ago, and he went away from the team for a while, I think we all thought that was probably the last we were going to see of him. And fast forward a couple of years, he's still here. So I think that's kind of interesting. Now, I don't know if he'll ever actually take a real snap for this team, but normally I would say, oh no, he's just there for, because they just drafted him, but they could have moved on from him a couple of different times and they chose not to. So he's kind of an interesting member of this team.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. It's not like he's just your typical third string emergency quarterback. No. They clearly have a soft spot for him. They clearly think that he plays that role well because you kind of need that guy. But I do want to point something out, the fact that he is a fourth round pick. And if a fourth round pick doesn't become your starting quarterback, you can't say that is a disappointment. Now, the question is, though, if a fourth round pick doesn't do enough to become your backup, is it a disappointment? Because the truth is, in a perfect world, Stetson Bennett, who would earn $1.145 million next year, if you get him as a backup quarterback and not have to pay someone $3 million, a Jimmy Garoppolo type of quarterback, that would be the best case scenario.
Oh, yeah. Look, if you could use him as your backup and feel comfortable getting through a game, 2 games, a month, or whatever it is at the price point that he's at, really, Garoppolo for backup quarterbacks is pretty expensive, and understandably so. I think that Jimmy Garoppolo is exactly the sort of quarterback you would want if you had to play without your starter. A guy that was a longtime starter in the league, a guy that's been on a lot of other teams, a guy that is fluent in football, right? Like he just understands what it is that you're trying to get done. He was a quarterback that started a Super Bowl. He was a guy that took his team to the playoffs. Like he's not the second coming of Tom Brady. I think everybody understands that, but he's also, I think, the best hope you could have if you're going to play with your number 2 quarterback. So that he's expensive really isn't a huge surprise to me. But you're right. If you could take a couple million here, a couple million there, and all of a sudden you got some money to play with a little bit. And I know what's going on in Dallas with Brandon Aubrey, and he wants a little more. Maybe he'll be a restricted free agent. Like there, you could maybe mess around a little bit. Instead of giving Tutu Atwell $10 million, maybe you could give someone else a good chunk of that. And I just think that when you can save a little around the margins, that it allows you to do a lot of things. Bennett would allow you to do that. I just don't think that the Rams feel like if they had to play, let's say Matthew Stafford twists his knee or something like that, like he's coming back, but he's going to be gone for an indeterminate amount of time. Like say it's a month or 5 games or whatever it is. I think if you said we're going to play football with Jimmy Garoppolo for a month, okay, you're probably going to go 500, if not a little bit better than that. If you had to go play a month with Stetson Bennett, I don't know if you're feeling the same way.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too, is where if you lost Matthew Stafford for the season, it'd be over, right? This is not we're going to rally around Kurt Warner and Trent Green. I don't think it's a situation like that. But I think it's more of if he has to miss a couple of games, a handful of games in the regular season, you can get a guy that can keep you afloat while you keep that record intact to try to put yourself in a position to win the division or get a bye or just kind of preserve that record and not miss the playoffs, right? I mean, you just kind of want to keep the floor high. And look, you mentioned Tutu Atwell. Tutu Atwell has thrown more passes at an NFL game than Stetson Bennett, right? So, I mean, that kind of tells you a lot. I mean, obviously, it tells you that the Rams stayed healthy and they didn't have to go to that emergency. But since Stetson Bennett's been on this team, Jimmy Garoppolo, Carson Wentz, Brett Rippon, Tutu Atwell, and Josh Carty have thrown passes in an NFL great game, and he hasn't. So, if they don't get Garoppolo back, it feels to me like they're going to go the veteran quarterback route just because of where they at in their roster build, knowing what's at stake as far as the window, knowing that you have Matthew Stafford, who's the toughest quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion, will play through any injury. But if he can't play for whatever reason, or you see a little bump and bruise here and you want to preserve him for the postseason, knowing you're going to make that deep run, here's some options. So if you look at the free agency, and NFL free agency is always ugly for quarterbacks. Well, I guess I shouldn't say because Sam Darnold kind of won a Super Bowl. So maybe the league will change. But the top, quote-unquote, top free agent quarterback this offseason is Daniel Jones. The second tier, Malik Willis, Aaron Rodgers, who's apparently out skiing. I don't know if you saw that. Aaron Rodgers skis now. Kirk Cousins, who's expected to become a free agent. Tier 3 is Mitch Trubisky, still exists. Joe Flacco, Marcus Mariota. Go Ducks. Bring back the Pac-12. Tier 4, Russell Wilson. There you go. Russell Wilson, Jimmy Garoppolo. And then the back is Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, Tyler Huntley, the Pro Bowler, Tyler Huntley, Skylar Thompson, and Sam Howell. So that's kind of the crop you're looking for. For me personally, I mean, just to see the reaction on your face, I think I would hope for Russell Wilson. But, you know what? Just run it back with Jimmy Garoppolo. I think we'll all be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, no, going through those names that you just listed, Garoppolo is by far the best of those names. Like Daniel Jones is a starter in this league. He's going to land there. But like if you said to me, do you want Kirk Cousins or Jimmy Garoppolo for a month? I'll take Jimmy Garoppolo for sure. I really don't think there's much of a comparison there. And I think this is another thing to kind of keep in mind for Rams fans, Doug, because, you know, think about what you and I were talking about a year ago, that it's, hey, is Matthew Stafford's back going to be okay? Is he going to be able to make it through an entire season? He's 37 years old. All of the things we talked about with his age and his health. Now, he went out and had an MVP season and shut everybody up and proved everybody wrong that was talking about those things. But it wasn't an outrageous question to ask a year ago. I think it's still a fair question to ask right now. I know he just had the best season of his life, but anybody want to bank that he's going to run that back? Never mind the MVP, but just bank the health of the whole season. I don't know. I hope so. But I do think you need to have somebody in the building that could do it. I will add this about Bennett. I forgot to mention it. We were talking about him earlier. Everything I've heard about him is that he kind of has, for lack of a better description, quarterback energy. Like he kind of owns the thing. It's you got to have a natural leadership ability, some swag, whatever you want to call it. And from everybody I've talked to, Bennett, despite your point, never having thrown a pass in a regular season game, kind of has that I got this energy. Like, hey man, if I need to play, I'll be fine. It's not I got this. So maybe there's a little something there that just we don't get to see as much as people inside the building might.
Yeah, winners win, certainly. And I think that is part of the Stetson Bennett experience, the moxie of him, the juice that he brings. And I certainly think that that's one of the reasons why the Rams have kept him around as long as they have. And look, I mean, I wouldn't be too upset about it. I just would like to at least see him get an opportunity and see him perform well in the preseason. I mean, he turns 47 in October. So, I mean, I think you get a good veteran vibe with that. So, look, I think at the end of the day, the trust, I think Jimmy Garoppolo seems happy here. I don't see he's going to get a lot more. I will say what's pretty interesting to me as far as a reclamation project, Zach Wilson, Zach Wilson versus Ty Simpson, you know what I mean? Like Trey Lance versus Ty Simpson. I'm just not that big on Ty Simpson, but
No, I don't know enough about Ty Simpson to have a real strong opinion on him, but I can tell you this, and this kind of goes, I think, across the board, whether we're talking NFL, NBA, Major League Baseball, whatever. Those guys, the Wilsons of the world and those guys, they've proven they can't play in this league. Like, we know for sure they're not quality quarterbacks in the NFL. Ty Simpson is an unknown. So I would go with Ty Simpson in this case. Like Garoppolo, I think, is the exact opposite. Like, there's proof of concept there. Like, I would always go, like Kirk Cousins even, there's a proof of concept that he can play in this league. Wilson and those other guys in Lance, like they can't play in the NFL, or at least they can't play well in the NFL. And I would go in a different direction from those kind of tier 3 guys.
That's fair. The upside's pretty interesting. But coming up next, we're going to get Travis' thoughts on the new rumor logo. Also, we got some projections on Puka Nacua. Is it time to give him the bag this offseason? That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
Workplace chaos, deadlines stacking up, inbox overflowing, and the one position you have open is still sitting there. When the pressure's on and you need the right hire, this is a job for sponsored jobs. Indeed, sponsored jobs helps you reach the people who actually fit what you're looking for. We're talking skills, experience, location. So you're not just hoping the right candidate stumbles across your post. And here's a stat that says it all. In the minute or so that we've been talking, companies like yours have made 27 hires on Indeed, according to Indeed data worldwide. So if you're hiring, spend less time searching and more time interviewing candidates who check all the boxes with Indeed sponsored jobs, right? More time searching? No, less time searching. More time actually interviewing the candidates who have what you have. Less stress, less time, more results. And when you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed sponsored jobs. And as listeners of this show, you're going to get a $75 sponsored job credit to help you get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Just go to Indeed.com/podcast right now and support the show by saying you heard about this post on this podcast. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. If you need to hire, this is a job for Indeed sponsored job. And as the new year gets going, a lot of people are trying to simplify their routines, and dinner, that is a big one, because between busy work days, cold winter nights, packed schedules, having an easy, reliable dinner plan makes a huge difference. That's where Home Chef comes in. Home Chef takes the stress out of cooking by delivering fresh, pre-portioned ingredients right to your door with easy-to-follow recipes that actually taste great. They're rated #1 by users of other meal kits for quality, convenience, value, taste, and recipe ease. And it's easy to see why. The meals come ready to fit your schedule, 30-minute recipes, oven-ready trays, or some quick lunches. And there are over 30 weekly options, including family-sized meals and dietary choices, right? Recipes simple, but they feel elevated, even restaurant quality, with dishes co-created by chefs like Gordon Ramsay. And for a limited time, Home Chef is offering our listeners 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. Just go to homechef.com/lockedon. That's homechef.com/lockedon for 50% off your first box, free shipping, and free dessert for life. You must be an active subscriber to receive free dessert.
And welcome back to Locked On Rams. Thank you for making Locked On Rams your first listen every single weekday. Free and available wherever you get your podcast. Locked On Rams, part of Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. All right, Travis, here in our second segment, we're talking about the logo real quick. So the new rumored logo, I sent you a picture of the draft hat, and basically it feels like they're going to just keep this LA one the same, ditch the gradient, and go with this all yellow look. And Rams fans all over the social media world are not happy about it. They don't like it at all. They think it looks like a downgrade. And it feels like Kevin Demoff. I don't know. We'll see how the official finished product is, but he's not very popular with Rams fans as far as his uniform and logo choices right now.
The all yellow one looks a little unfinished almost. It looks a little flat. It doesn't kind of like the gradient one, like the one that you have on your head right now, I think really grew on me over time. It looks stylized. It looks a little bit more modern NFL. The other one looks a little bit more retro NFL, which is fine. But if you're going to go retro. Like, let's go back to what they had back in the 70s and the 80s. I think Rams fans would love to see that. I think that people are pretty happy with what they have now, minus, a tweak here or there. The new one, I don't hate it. I don't love it, but it didn't just put it to you this way, D-Mac. When I saw it, it wasn't like, oh my gosh, I got to have that. It was okay, let's see how that lands a month from now, and go from there. But I still think you said this a million times, and maybe it's just because we're the age that we are. I'm a little bit older than you, but it's just they're sitting on the obvious answer. It's the retro design. It's the design. It's the Eric Dickerson era. It's the Jackie Slater era. Like that is just such a clean look that I would love to see him go back to something like that.
Yeah, it's just kind of weird because, I think if you're an LA team, you should always try to incorporate the LA at some point in your logo. Like, it definitely makes sense to do that. Like, the Chargers really can't do that. They had this weird, bolt one they were trying out. The Lakers kind of developed, a new, different LA logo, which I don't think it looked that great. We got the Lakers' big gold basketball. It was pretty iconic, right? But I think for the Rams, it's just kind of one of those things where it's like, I mean, logos do grow onto you for sure.
Yes, that's very
I think
true.
It's kind of one of those things where when you see one that's I remember being super young and seeing that new Broncos uniform, when they changed it up, and I was like, dude, that right off the bat is cool. You know what I mean? So I just don't think the Rams. I just want to see the Rams put out something where it's universally that looks great. When the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Seahawks this past year, when they revealed their throwbacks, it was universal acclaim.
Yeah.
The question is, when's the last time the Rams have put out something that was universal acclaim? Since the Todd Gurley, Aaron Donald days of just, wow, they're back in the Coliseum wearing those. I can't think of a time where they've done that.
No, I'm with you. I think you're right. I think it's right there. Go with that late 70s, early 80s look. And it's just, the colors are vibrant. It feels kind of like a comic book. It's very, very distinctly LA. You know what I mean? It's not, it's funny because the gold and the navy that the Rams had in St. Louis, that had to go for all the, number one, it just didn't feel like the Rams. The Rams are not gold and navy, but it specifically felt like the St. Louis Rams. So I think that needed to be put in the rearview mirror. This new version that they just wore these most recent seasons, that really grew on me. And I love the helmet. I think the helmet is incredibly slick, but the answer is the answer, and that is that Eric Dickerson era Rams uniform. Think Jerome Bettis back in the day. Like those are just they are LA. It feels of its time, of its era back in the Coliseum before they moved to Anaheim, even in Anaheim for a period of time. It's just it feels like a very obvious answer to me.
Yeah, and who knows? Maybe someday they'll kind of go back to, because some of these teams have gone back to it. But it's kind of one of those things too. When you actually make a change, it's like, kind of, do you go back because you've already kind of made that change? But yeah, we'll see. I mean, I'll give the benefit of the doubt that I'm willing to wait till like it's like officially official, and we'll see what they do. But the truth is, I mean, I feel like there's so much potential there to gain new fans, to sell more merch, to just like kind of be who you are as a franchise. But it always kind of bothers me when there's like, it always feels like people don't want to go the obvious way just because they want to be like, oh, I was paid to do this job, to do something different. So there's this like, it's like, there's like this performative kind of like fake work. It's like, that dude at work who's just like, oh, like I email you all these things.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like your job is to email me or whatever. It's like, it feels like it's kind of performative in a way,
I do. I understand exactly what you're saying, that you're changing it just to change it. We're moving it just to move it when you have a very good one. I'm happy to just stay where they are. I could live with that. That's grown on me quite a bit. But I don't think you just want to go with that flat color, that one color, the all yellow on a blue background. It's not moving me right now. That's for sure.
It's not moving me at all. I'm with you. All right, let's get to some serious stuff, though, by the way. That is Puka Nacua in his contract. So we got some cap. This is kind of like cap expert season where you get some like really good, accurate projections of contracts. And Spotrac's Michael Sinetti, he has projected Puka Nacua's market value to be at $38.5 million, which per season, which would set him up for a contract that could be around 4 years, $164 million, $41 million guaranteed as the highest, or it could be a little lower than that. But that is right below Jamar Chase, who's at the $40 million AAV. That is a pretty penny for Puka Nacua, who is doing a lot of dancing this offseason, having a very adventurous offseason, to say the least.
Yeah, look, this is a really tough call. It's an incredibly tough call. And I think whatever they do is risky. I think that both avenues are very, very risky to them. Puka Nacua is clearly one of the best wide receivers in the league. Like there's no debating it. I even think there's a case to be made that he might be the best one. So the best guy deserves the most money. That makes sense to me. The problem with Puka, problem is the wrong word. Let me rephrase that. The concern with Puka, in my estimation, is the style in which he plays and the dumb stuff that he does off of the field. And those have to factor in. The style is concerned. Think Cooper Kupp, right? Cooper Kupp was awesome until he wasn't. And it happened fast. It happened really, really quickly. Think of Davante Adams. Is Davante Adams the same guy he was in Green Bay? Probably not. Is it close? Yep. It's really close, right? He still does, because Davante Adams doesn't take a whole bunch of unnecessary hits. Davante Adams isn't clearing out linebackers on running plays. Davante Adams gets out of bounds when he can get out of bounds. He gets on the ground when he can get out of ground. He knows when it's time to stick his face in there and fight, and he knows when it's time to live to fight for another day. Puka takes so many unnecessary shots. I don't think that the aging curve for him looks all that wonderful. I think it's going to be a lot like Cooper Kupp. That's number one. So do you want to be in the business with Puka Nacua as he starts to become a different sort of player? I don't know. And the off the field stuff maybe hasn't been a huge deal, but it's a lot more than anyone else in the Rams organization. It's a lot more than anybody else that we've talked about, whether it's the referee stuff, whether it's the live stream, whether it's the touchdown dance that he said he'd do, whether it's dancing in the streets, whether all of this kind of stuff. Like each individual one maybe isn't a huge deal, but all of them together, it's like, dude, can you just not? And apparently he can't just not, that he needs to do it. And, the Rams, like we've talked about a million times, D-Mac, they don't do noisy, and Puka's pretty noisy off of the field. And I get it, young, successful, talented, Los Angeles, opportunities, et cetera, to do what you want to do. But It is a really tough call because if you do it, it could go bad. And if you don't do it, one of the best wide receivers in the league may be displeased with what he's actually getting. It's a very tough call. In my opinion, this is exactly why they invented the franchise tag. Exactly why you did. Like, he's going to get all his money, but you're not locked into this long term. That you can get out of it if you need to. The franchise tag seems really, really attractive to me.
Yeah, it's a good point about the franchise tag for sure. It kind of gives teams some flexibility to keep guys like Puka without being stuck with him long term. But I, in the event that it doesn't work out, but right. I think that he's just such a good player. Like if he was like a B plus, right? But he's like an A plus. Like he's like an A plus as far as the on-field production. I mean, he led the league in receiving yards per game, in receptions. I mean, his 3 years has really been a historic start to a career. And I look at what a potential deal would look like with 4 years, and it's not 10 years, right? It's not something like that, like in some other sports. And I think a guy that's kind of mentioned early retirement. He's talking about, hey, I want to retire early. So I think you could feel good about, we're going to pay you knowing that you're going to absolutely go all in for the next 4 seasons after this, and you could save some money on the back end. I think it would send shockwaves. And I think if you think that he was a distraction now with some behavior off the field, which he's not breaking the law or anything.
No, he's not.
But it's like he's kind of just embarrassing himself. Like, to be honest, like it's in a weird way. Like, he's getting trolled. Like, oh, like why, this guy's acting weird. He looks like, he just like. And for me, I love weird. I think it's cool. Like, when people have personalities. But I'm just talking about the general like perception. It feels very weird. Like, think about this time last year. It was like, Puka's my favorite player that's not on my team. Like, how many people would say that last year? Like, Puka's a dude who, I'm not a Rams fan, but I like the way that guy plays football. Like, hard, tough, 5th round pick, all these things. Now it's like, Puka's by far the most hated player on the Rams by other teams, and it's not even close. Like, he's got so many haters, and a lot of times when you get good, you get haters, and that's a byproduct of that. But I think I just don't want to see the focus be on that. But if it's me, I'm still paying the guy, but I'm also kind of hoping for some maturity along the way too.
I think you said it really well. I would think I would pay him too, but I would also be really worried every single day about the other shoe dropping. And I really do think that his arc, whatever we're going to call it, like when it goes bad, I think it's going to go bad quickly because he's not super fast, because he just takes so much punishment along the way. He's terrific. He is a terrific football player right now, but I worry about the punishment he's taken and all of that stuff. Like you said, he's not breaking the law. He's not doing anything wrong necessarily. It's just like, can we not? And I don't know if he can respond with, yeah, you know what, I'll knock. Like, it feels like we're adding to it instead of taking away from it. And I don't like where the arrow's headed.
Here's the thing too. Like, part of the no-brainer of this is like, hey bro, here's his contract and here's these videos. Like, when you sign this, we don't want to see these videos. Is that cool? Like, and he's like, okay, cool. Sign it. Boom. And that's like the end of that.
You know what I mean? Once he signs it, he can go make whatever video he wants, and you're in the lurch with the money, and he can go make his videos.
Yeah, that is true. Hopefully, hey, money can help people, can make people act a fool. So I'm hoping
franchise tag.
Wild, I love it. But coming up next, another player that needs a new deal that we're not really talking about. That's coming up next on Locked On Rams.
If you ever wanted to experience the NBA Finals live and in person, why not, right? How fun would that be? Because FanDuel is giving you the chance to turn that dream into reality with their NBA sweepstakes. Let me tell you how it works. You use your profit boost on any NBA future, and what happens is you're going to be automatically entered for a shot to win an NBA Finals trip for 2. That's right, flights, tickets, the whole experience. And if you're already looking at the board and thinking about which team can make a run, this is a perfect time to lock all that in, because this time of year, whether it's picking a team to win the title, grab a conference title, it adds that extra layer of excitement to each and every game down the stretch. And not only can you pick up cash, it could also send you to the final. So visit FanDuel.com to get started. Use your profit boost on an NBA future and get entered for your chance to win a trip to the NBA Finals. That sounds amazing. That sounds like an incredibly good time. Play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
That would be a good deal unless you want to see the Lakers, because they will not be.
It won't be in LA. You will be on an airplane. That's for sure.
Airplane's a good way to put it. Yeah. But here in our third segment, Travis, so all the talks about a Puka Nacua deal, how about a Kobie Turner deal? And Kobie Turner has got some pretty big projections himself. I mean, the guy I told you about from Spotrac, Gennady, he has them at $24.9 million per year. As far as defensive tackles go, I mean, he could even be in the Chris Jones territory, which, as far as these projections, that kind of blows my mind a little bit. Feels like he's a guy who loves being with the Rams, and you would hope kind of take a little bit of hometown discount, but he's essential to this team. I think the thing about Kobie Turner is he's great for sure, but we're also used to like another guy being like the greatest there. So I'm like, man, we're giving this guy that kind of money.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. Like, it's quite frankly, it's almost the exact opposite of what we're talking about with Puka, right? Like, there's no concern about anything other than whether or not he's good enough, right? Like, Puka is all, he's good enough, but is he going to do something that makes you go, man, what is that dude doing? Kobie Turner is never going to be, what is he going to go? Play instruments, sing, be a good guy, do the national anthem at the Laker game? Like, he's about as solid a citizen as you're going to find. But it's just like, do you go all in with him, or could you get another player who's at least close enough to the ability of Kobie Turner, who's a really nice player, but pay him a fraction of the cost? Because I think this is the kind of the philosophical divide I think that the Rams find themselves in. Like, can we stay cheap on the defensive side? I don't mean cheap as in like poor quality, but can we remain inexpensive over there? Can we go young and develop? Can we find the next Kobie Turner? Can we find the next Byron Young? Can you find these sorts of players in the draft year after year so you don't have to pay these guys, and you can take that money and give it to Puka Nacua and give it to Matthew Stafford and give it to Kyron Williams and all of these other Devontae Adams, and continue to double down on the offensive side and just get by defensively? That's a way they might go do it. Because if it's just a matter of, do you want to keep this player in the fold? Do you think he's earned the money? The answer is clearly yes. I mean, he's a really good player, and he's a guy that you can feel really good about having in your organization. But there's a finite amount of money to go on, and every dollar you give him is one less you can give to Matthew Stafford or Puka or anybody else. So I think that's the calculus, not whether or not you'd like to keep him. You think he's good. He is good, and you want to keep him. It's just at what price.
Yeah, and I know sometimes we cringe to use certain terms because we kind of like nitpick this stuff. And one thing for me is I hate using overrated or underrated, because I'm like, underrated to who? Like, is he underrated to the Rams? That's all that really matters, right? Is he underrated to some person who just like watches football like on Sundays? Like, and who cares? But I will say for Kobie Turner, he is a guy that you almost don't realize that his PFF grade at 83.1 was 6th out of 134 defensive linemen. That his pressures at 55 was 5th out of 134. And really, he's right there with Jared Verse as far as like overall production. Yeah. But everyone views Jared Verse as this future All-Pro, future Defensive Player of the Year, when the reality is that Kobie Turner has been just as productive, essentially. And then you mentioned the intangibles. The dude is like this guy's IQ is crazy. Like, he plays piano. He can sing very well. Like this guy's like, he's kind of got that it factor. I think he's someone that you want on your team. Like, and so I'd pay Kobie Turner. Like, I would have no issue with paying Kobie Turner what he's looking for. And I think him and Jared Verse are the ones that I think for sure. Byron Young's the one who's been really productive, but if you can't pay them all, I mean, I've talked about, flipping him for Max Crosby, things like that. So I think Kobie Turner ultimately gets a deal too. Tomorrow, though, we'll talk some Steve Avila. And so these other guys, they got to pay, because they can't pay everyone. Nope. They should pay us for kind of, their agent should pay us for kind of pumping them up. So we'll take our 5%. But that's going to do it for this episode of Locked On Rams. My name is Doug McCain. You can follow me on X and Instagram at DMAC_LA. And you can follow the People's Champ, Mr. Travis Rogers, at Travis Rogers. And until next time, whose house? It's Locked On Rams house.